Hey, it's Bang for About PC Gamer here. Now, I want to make a video on me overclocking my system to the absolute maximum. And that was regarding the processor, the graphics card and the memory. I want to run through my specs here. So as you can see, I'm using an Intel i5 3570K, which I was able to overclock to 4.9 GHz. The cores are staying quite nice and cool when idling, like in the low 27s, 23, 28. When you're doing something a bit intensive like playing a game, it usually reaches around 76 to 77 degrees on the cores, which is perfectly safe. So I think my water cooling loop is doing a good job, considering it's only one single 360 rad, which is cooling both the graphics card and processor. Now the graphics card I'm running is a R9 290, which I've water cooled. The clocks on that are 1240 on the core and 1675 on the memory. I also used Sapphire tricks to achieve that overclock because it's got a higher VDC offset than any other overclocking software I know currently. My motherboard is a Asus Sabertooth Z77, and I'm using 8 gigs of Corsair DDR3 1600 MHz. At the time of doing the benchmark results, which I'm going to show you in a minute, I was pushed memory to 1866. So that's a spec out the way. I want to show you a picture of the actual card. That's the EK water block I'm using. That's the back plate I installed, which kind of provides some passive cooling to the VRM area, which is around here. So you know, that's just a basic overview of the card and how it looks currently. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some benchmarks. I've used the main benchmarks from, or the most popular benchmarks anyway that I know, which is 3D Mark Vantage, 3D Mark 11, 3D Mark 2013, and the Firestrike graphics text Firestrike and Firestrike Extreme. I also threw in some Unigine Heaven 4.0 and Unigine Valley 1.0 benchmarks. I've got a few stock benchmarks as well, which I can show you for comparison reasons, so you can kind of see what you can achieve when you overclock this card and how well this R9 290 responds to overclocking. So I'm going to keep the stock scores on the left hand side and the overclock scores on the right hand side. So I'm going to start with the stock. So this is the stock 3D Mark Vantage preset, and I was able to achieve 41,784 on the GPU score at stock. Now when I overclocked my card to the clocks I've just shown you, which is 1240 MHz on the core and 1675 on the memory, I was able to achieve 51,165 on the GPU score, which is a very, very good increase, almost 10,000 actually, which is one of the highest increases I've seen since I've been benchmarking. So as you can see, this card responds pretty well to overclocking. Let's move on to the extreme scores. So as you can see, with a stock R9 290 you get 24,248 on a 3D Mark Vantage Extreme preset. When you overclock it, you're able to push it all the way up to 30,000 on a GPU score. So a nice 6,000 point increase, more or less, which is pretty good. I used to have two GTX 670s in SLI, and I know you must instantly you're thinking, oh, why did you downgrade to a single R9 290? Well, as we all know, when with Crossfire and SLI, not all games support that technology, and even when they do support it, it doesn't always scale as much as we would like. So I found that having a single, more powerful graphics card was always the best solution for having decent minimum frame rates and just a better gaming experience than having two reasonably performing cards which try to make up the performance of a single powerful one. So that's my experience anyway. So moving on to 3D Mark 11. As you can see, stock, you get 13,913 on the graphics score, and when you do some overclocking, you're able to achieve 18,103, and that's a considerable increase. So again, further strengthening the point that these cards do respond very well to overclocking. I'll show you some 3D Mark 11 Extreme scores now, starting with the stock. So stock Extreme score, you get 3,823 on the graphics score, and when you overclock it, you get 4,913, which is nice to see. It's not a massive increase, but we all know 3D Mark 11 Extreme preset's pretty rough on your graphics card, so almost hitting 5,000, which is really good for a single card, which cost me £308. I bought my card like a week after launch, which I'm very happy about, because now the prices have increased because of availability and demand. No thanks to Litecoin and Bitcoin mining, but hopefully when that trend dies out, the cards will go back down to their normal price. So sometimes it does pay to get your card in early instead of waiting. Okay, I'll move on to 3D Mark 2013. I don't actually have any stock scores to show you on this one, but I can just show you the overclock results that I was able to get. And this is the Fire Strike preset. I was able to achieve 13,265 for the graphics score, which is pretty insane. This card's definitely punching above its weight. Even for the 3D Mark, in regards to 3D Mark, it can rival and even beat a GTX 780 Ti at stock, and almost trade blows with it an overclocked GTX 780 Ti in this graphics test anyway. I'm going to show you the extreme scores that I got from Fire Strike Extreme. I was able to hit 6,121 for the graphics score. So this card's very, very powerful. I'm actually going to show you some results on the GTX 780 Ti just to prove what I was saying. This is a review site called Legit Reviews, and they're using a GTX 780 Ti reference, and they ran the 3D Mark Fire Strike benchmark, which I've just shown you. I want to show you the key here. Blue means the overall score and red indicates the GPU score. Now here's my score, and here's their score. So a GTX 780 Ti at stock will score 1196 on this benchmark, and my card Overclocked can score 13,265. So this card can actually mix it up with the GTX 780 Ti. And I know you're thinking, oh, that's unfair, you've overclocked your card. Well, the guys at Legit Reviews also overclocked the GTX 780 Ti and ran this benchmark. So I'm going to show you the results of their overclock. So they're running the card. Sorry. So they're running the card at 1289 megahertz on the core and 1900 megahertz on the memory, and they were able to score, I know it's a bit blurry, 13,418 on a graphics score, and that's an overclocked GTX 780 Ti, and I'm just about 200 points away. So you know, I'm pretty happy with that, because this card's in a completely different league and it does kind of reign supreme, especially when overclocked. There's nothing really that can get close to it, but it's good to see that this card isn't too far behind in performance from a stock GTX 780 Ti. I'm just going to show you the remaining benchmarks of 3D Mark, Unigine Heaven and Unigine Valley. So I want to start with the stock Heaven results. Oh, it's the wrong one, sorry. So this is the overclocked Unigine Heaven, which is 63.8 frames per second with a score of 1607, and at stock you get 51.4 frames per second with a score of 1295. So a 10 frames per second, over a 10 frames per second increase there. So Unigine Valley, when you overclock the R9 290, you get a score of 3045 and a frames per second of 72.8. At stock you get 56.6 and a score of 2366. So that's just further strengthening my point that this card really does respond well while overclocking. So those are my results, and all I can say is I'm pretty happy at the moment. I spent less money than I would have if I bought a R9 290X. I mean, providing you've already got a water-cooled system, buying a water block and putting it on an R9 290 and achieving a decent overclock, you'll far surpass a R9 290X and actually spend around about £10 less money. So it's something to bear in mind. Anyway, this is Bang for Buck PC Gamer signing out, and I hope this video was informative to anyone that was wondering what you could achieve from a reference R9 290 when it's water cooled.